Yo, what's going on, guys? So I love using smart wall switches in my smart home, and today I'm going to give you 3 reasons why you should be using smart wall switches if you're serious about building a smart home. Now be sure to stick around to the end because I'm also going to give you some tips and we'll discuss which smart switches you should get. Let's go. Yo, what's up, guys? Thanks so much for joining me. For those new here, my name is Shane, and on this channel I am building an easy smart home using HomeKit. So if that's something you're into, be sure to subscribe, click the bell icon because we're dropping new HomeKit smart home videos every Sunday right here. Now, I just recently added some new smart switches to my bedroom. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while and I just kept putting it off. I finally got me one of the Lutron fan switches, and I went ahead and got a dimmer switch for the lights in there. So this kind of got me thinking about smart switches, and this is something I get a lot of questions about, whether I should be using smart switches or smart bulbs and things like that. So I think using smart switches in your home is a must if you're really serious about building, a smart home. I learned a lot of this stuff the hard way, and today I just want to share with you some of those experiences. We're going to discuss the 3 main reasons why you should be using smart switches, and then I'm also going to give you some extra little tips, and we'll talk about which smart switches you should get. Alright, so the first reason why you need to be using smart switches is because you can still use the wall switch. Alright, so when I first started getting into the smart home stuff, I purchased, one of the starter packs from Philips Hue, the light bulbs. I think I did my dining room lights, and put smart bulbs all in there, which seemed cool for a minute, but then immediately I noticed the problem. Everybody in my family kept on using the wall switch, which would then cut the connection to those smart bulbs and therefore ending in the dreaded no response. It was messing up my automations and my scenes. Anytime somebody flips that wall switch when you're using smart bulbs, it's gonna kill your automations and your scenes and ruin that connection. Take it from me, no matter how hard you try, your family and guests are still gonna be using the wall switch. So using a smart wall switch, you get kind of the best of both worlds. People can still use that wall switch and it's not going to mess up your automations and scenes, and you can still use all that just as you would expect. Now, people ask me all the time, what should I get, smart switches or smart bulbs? For me, a general rule of thumb that I go by is if there is a wall switch that can control it, use a smart switch. That's what I started doing here in my house, and I kind of just reserve the smart bulbs for those lamps and light fixtures and things that aren't controlled by a wall switch. Now, another reason you need to use smart switches instead of bulbs in many cases is because it can save you money. A lot of these light fixtures and setups require multiple bulbs. For example, I have lots of these can lights in my kitchen, and my kitchen was one of the first things that I actually wanted to automate. So that's when I really started looking into these smart wall switches, because if I would have replaced every one of those bulbs with, say, like a Philips Hue can light bulb, so to do all those would have really got pretty expensive. Plus a lot of these chandeliers, even your ceiling fan lights like in your bedroom, a lot of these fixtures have multiple bulbs, and so if you're replacing all of these bulbs, it can add up really quick. It's a lot easier and more cost effective just to replace that one wall switch, and then you can continue using the existing bulbs that you already have. Now, the number 3 reason why you need to be using smart wall switches is for automation. Now, this might seem obvious to like you and me, we're into this smart home stuff, but I get a lot of people that ask, is it really necessary to control your lights with your phone? Well, no, not really. And to be honest, I rarely use my phone or the home app in my case to control my lights. In fact, one of the main benefits to smart home lighting is automation and kind of setting these things up to happen automatically. For example, I have a number of lights that just come on automatically when I come home. I have my outdoor lights that are all controlled using smart switches. These lights come on and off with the sunrise and sunset. As I mentioned earlier, I recently added a fan switch and a light switch to my bedroom. So now in the morning, I can automate my lights to come on dimly, turn off the ceiling fan, which kind of helps me wake up, and I can automate that to a certain time, or I can even trigger that when I snooze my alarm. Another really cool one, if you have these fan switches, is you can set an automation that, if your temperature or humidity gets above a certain level, you can cut off the lights and cut on the fan. Automations like that are really cool and one of the things I love about having a smart home. And those are the 3 big reasons why you need to be using smart switches if you're getting serious about, smart home automation. Now, I did want to discuss some tips and maybe go over which switches you should get. There's a lot of options out there. For example, some switches connect directly to Wi-Fi, some switches require a hub, some switches require a neutral wire, some don't, some work in 3 and 4-way setups, some don't. All these are things you need to kind of consider if you're looking into smart switches. Now, personally, I prefer switches that require a hub. Now, this is just a personal opinion. I know other people may not feel the same way, but the reason I feel that way is that because first of all, if you're doing your whole house, and I do have plans to eventually have my whole house set up with smart switches or most of it, I don't really want all of those switches directly connected to my Wi-Fi router, which could potentially bog down my Wi-Fi. Another reason why I like using switches that require a hub is because in my experience, when you're using accessories that require a hub, they're just really fast and really reliable. And that's why I started with Lutron Caseta a while back when I first started getting light switches. These do require a hub, and the switches actually connect to their hub through a proprietary protocol called Clear Connect, I think it is. It's kind of like Zigbee or something, but all these switches are connecting to the hub, and there's going to be no interference with your Wi-Fi or even other Zigbee devices or anything because it's using its own wireless protocol. I believe you can connect up to 75 devices to this Lutron hub. So those switches work great. They've been around for a while. You rarely hear anybody say anything bad about Lutron Caseta. These are probably some of the most reliable HomeKit accessories that I have in my setup. I rarely think about them. They always work, and I've never had any issues in using them, and I've been using these for well over a year now. They work in 3-way switch setups, which is really cool. So you can use the Pico remote and the wall bracket for 3-way switch setups, which I did do some of that. And I also found a way to use the little button on the Pico remote to control your HomeKit scene. So I did do a separate video on that. I'll put a link down in the description below. But they do work with 3-way setups. They have the fan controller now. I love having this, so I actually have more control from my light switch now than I did before. Before it was just an on and off switch, but now I can actually control the speed from both my wall and through automations and HomeKit. So these are really awesome. Lutron sells the wall plates for 2, 3, 4 gang wall switches. So if you have those kind of setups, you can use those. In my recent bedroom install, I actually installed one fan controller, one smart dimmer, and one dumb switch because the dumb switch just connected to an outlet that's actually like behind a chair or something that I never use, so I didn't really care about making that smart. So I just used a $5 dumb switch right there, got one of the 3 gang wall plates, put it on, and good to go. Another big plus for these switches is that the dimmer doesn't require a neutral wire. Now my fan controller did require a neutral wire, and I believe some of the regular just on off smart switches that I've installed from Lutron did require a neutral wire. So you just want to check and make sure you have a neutral wire if you're installing a switch that requires the neutral wire. Now the biggest downside to the Lutron Caseta smart switches is definitely the cost. Really, that's the only downside unless you just don't like the look of them. They are pretty expensive. They usually average around $60 or so per switch, somewhere in there, 50 to 60 bucks for a switch. So that's kind of on the pricey side, and that can really add up if you're trying to do your whole house. But I can say if you can afford the Lutron Caseta smart switches, I really don't think you'll be disappointed. Now you may recall I recently did a video on the newer Aqara smart switches. Now these are much more affordable, and these are also pretty versatile. They sell a single rocker and a double rocker version, which I think these are the only smart switches that I've seen that offer a double rocker, which is basically 2 light switches, in the footprint of one. So that's really nice. And they sell with neutral and without neutral versions. So those are pretty versatile too. I think you can probably find something that fits in your house. Now these don't feel quite as premium as the Lutron switches, and they don't offer some of the extra benefits or options that you might get with the Lutron switches. For example, these are just on and off. There's no dimmer capabilities. You can't use these in 3-way installations right now. But I do think these are very good, reliable, budget-friendly switches. Now, as I said, I've been using just switches that require a hub. I have not used any Wi-Fi connected smart switches. So if any of you guys do use those and have any experiences, whether you like them or don't, please feel free to share your experience down in the comments below. So there you go. That is why you need to be using smart switches for your smart home. Every house has light switches. Don't use smart bulbs, because somebody's going to come and flip off that switch and ruin your automations, and then you're just going to have a bad day. Trust me. They can also save you some money, so you're not having to replace a ton of bulbs across the house, and they're awesome for creating some cool automations like I've done with my HomeKit setup. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. That does help me. That helps other people find these videos on YouTube. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. Again, on this channel, we're building an easy smart home using HomeKit, and I'm putting out new HomeKit videos every single Sunday right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them down below. And until next week, we'll see y'all later.